the great divide between our understanding. We understand intellectually, rationally, on one point and one part of us, but then there's also how we put that into action. Welcome to our second session on vision and transformation, the Noble Eightfold Path. And we're going to be exploring perfect emotions today. Yeah, perfect emotion. And it comes from my kind of exploration of it comes from this book, Sangha book on vision and transformation, which is the Noble Eightfold Path. What does perfect emotion mean? Well, the first thing to say is that from last week when Amra Pushpa talked about perfect vision, she talked about seeing the truth, seeing reality, having a transcendental moment, maybe through art, through nature, through death, impermanence, loss, all sorts of things, beauty. All sorts of things can be that transcendental moment. So you have a vision, you have this thing that opens you up, this receptive openness to something that's really mysterious, and I don't know how long that lasts, but it can last just a minute, or it can last a long period of time. But in order to kind of transform, or to kind of remember that vision and bring it into your basic being, you have to involve other parts of yourself. And perfect emotion in this context can mean emotion like, we're going to talk about that, love, or transforming all our emotions in line with our vision. That's what we're heading for. Sangha talks about perfect emotion as, he talks about it is in the original text as meaning samyak samkalpa. And that can mean right resolve, resolution, but it also means will. It means will, yeah, will. So it's our volitional, our drives, our will, the emotional sides of our being. That's what we have to connect the vision to in order for it to really change us. So there's the great divide between our understanding. We understand intellectually, rationally, on one point and one part of us, but then there's also how we put that into action. Yeah. So theory and practice, we have that in anything that we learn from. But when it involves something that's about the spiritual life, it can be even more of a challenge to put that into action. So I was thinking about my example would be, I found it quite easy to be a vegetarian, but I found it harder to be a vegan. Yeah, I can give up cheese, I can give up all of those things, but chocolate, particularly quite manufactured chocolate, yeah. So, when I'm on retreat, I'm very happy to give it up, and I can give that up for a couple of weeks after a retreat. And then, the feeling in the fridge comes along, there's this, I'm bored, maybe start on some of these box sets, and then there's the temptation towards chocolate again. So there's something about wanting sweetness and comfort from a quick fix that's there. So even though I know in theory that veganism is causing less suffering, less harm in the world, this is my Achilles point. Achilles point, yeah. So in this exploration, Sangha talks about if we want to go for what is right, we have to harness our emotions. What we know is right, we have to harness our emotions. And he talks about, and I think this could be a talking point between me and Riyanaga, about we have to find the emotional equivalence for our intellectual understanding. Yeah, that's so. I'm not always sure what that means, but I think it's a wonderful thing to aspire to. Yes. So there's this great divide in us. There's this great divide in us. We're divided. We're dispersed. We're, one part of us wants to go. We see this fantastic thing like Buddhism or meditation or the sense of Sangha, and we know it resonates with us. But then there's other parts of us which are scattered, and just want whatever's the next quick thing that will seem to satisfy us. Yeah. So this is what perfect emotion starts to explore for us. We need to find a way of bringing our emotional lives into harmony with our vision. So perfect emotion can be kind of categorized by in two areas. The other thing, what I can say about Sangha says that there is no spiritual life until the heart is involved. Yeah, that's yeah. So as I say, there's two kind of parts to positive emotion or perfect emotion. Yeah, and there's a kind of negative positive emotion. Doesn't mean negative as in judgment or criticism. It's just that it's in Buddhism sometimes to use a negative is a positive as well, which is confusing if you're fixed on words. Okay, so there's so one of the things is regarding negative positive emotion is renunciation. Yeah, giving things up. Yeah. Letting things go. So, yeah, it was quite easy to give up meat. Yeah, and it didn't feel like it involved too much angst. It was just over time, I just wanted to let go of that. Yeah, just like you would let go of a piece of clothing or something. It's that kind of letting go, and letting go of craving. That's what's under it, and going towards simplicity. So that's some of the things around renunciation. There's also there's non-cruelty. Non-cruelty is one of the negative positive emotions, and a non-hate. Yeah. So that's on. So those are some of those. Under the positive emotions, there's things like the Brahma Viharas, yes, which you've been studying. Brixton has been studying on Mondays, the Brahma Viharas. So it's things like, metta, loving kindness, yeah, karuna, compassionate. When compassion meets suffering, or metta meets suffering, it becomes compassion, and karuna stands for compassion. There's mudita, and that's sympathetic joy, which is just enjoying other people's success, enjoying their whatever success they have, yeah, and well-wishing for them in a really deep way. And there's upeksha, which is calm, but a real deep sense of calm and peace and equilibrium, so balance. Yeah, so those are the Brahma Viharas. There's also, in terms of positive emotion, there is also Shraddha, which is faith, but faith and devotion, but it's also an emotional response to the truth. Yeah, it's an emotional response to the truth. And these, oh, okay, 1 sec. So these are considered social emotions. Yeah, social emotions, and social emotions mean they're to do with relationships. Yeah. And the other thing that this text particularly explores is Sangha. Sangha, and the way to develop positive emotion can be through Sangha, because we can not always do it on our own. Yeah, so the way to cultivate positive emotion is through love, compassion, ethics, and all of those can be enhanced and developed in relationship to Sangha. Yeah, so I'm gonna talk with Viranaga, discuss a little bit around perfect emotion. Yeah, is there anything that you want to start with, really?
Well, I mean, thanks for your talk. It was really, really good, really enjoyable. Yeah, I mean, particularly that thing you're saying around the intellectual. What's Bhante say? The emotional equivalent of our intellectual understanding.
Yes.
It's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it?
Yes.
But I think, really relevant in a way. I mean, one that I think we could probably struggle with our whole lives in a way, like catching up with what we aspire to or something. And it's a bit of a sort of silly example, but I was walking around in the park yesterday, and we're about a week into the second lockdown, aren't we? And
yes.
Suddenly loads of new joggers, well, they look like new joggers around anyway, like they don't look like joggers, they're out jogging. And you sort of think, well, that's like, it's a kind of expression of an ideal, isn't it? It's people that think, oh, I'll get healthy this time.
Yes.
And, I'm sure some people carry on, but I know from my own experience that there's often not enough of me behind some of those, what is a positive kind of aspiration. It sort of falls away. And of course that happens, it happens to me in spiritual life. I'm sure it happens to other people as well.
Yes. The New Year's resolutions that we all make, and then by February are gone, possibly, aren't they? Yeah.
But it's important that we make the resolutions, isn't it? Because otherwise, what have we got? We just don't try. Important that we kind of make them. Or even like, okay, I'm going to meditate every day, or I'm going to, be kind to my friends, or keep a gratitude diary, whatever it is. Good that we make that kind of intention, even if we don't quite do it. But I guess the question for me becomes, how do we gather ourselves up behind it? Don't know if you've got any sort of experience of that in your practice, how you've gathered yourself up behind decisions in your life.
I think it's not been like linear. It's like, I get enthused and do it for a while, and then I stumble around a bit, and then realise that I need this again. So then I go back, and it feels like it's been, bumps. Bumps, and then engagement, and then bumps again, and engagement again. So
even as you're saying that, I think that's sort of just the same for me in a way. I get enthusiastic about something for a while. Often after a retreat or something. Yes. And I'll be like, okay, I'm going to do this every day, twice a day. Yes. And then it might last a couple of weeks, and then whatever. But I've still made some progress.
But then meditation, the fact that you come back to that momentum brings you back, isn't it, as well? And also that you remember what you value in when you come back to meditation. So it kind of can be a return to your vision you may not think about it every day, but it can be a return to what you really value.
I also read the same book that you read as well, and I really liked in there that Bhante makes the point that for it to be kind of spiritual emotion or integrated emotion, it needs to be in service of that kind of spiritual vision in a way. So I sort of like how I think he even says it sort of something like it's the bridge between the vision and the transformation, isn't it? I think he says it mediates between the two, which I kind of like. I mean, of course, we could aspire to all sorts of things, couldn't we? To, I don't know, be rich, or to marry somebody we really love or something. But I guess in this particular instance, we're talking about a kind of spiritual, aspirational kind of vision, aren't we?
Yeah.
Because I have aspirations for all sorts of different things, but they're not always kind of in line with my spiritual vision.
Yeah. And I guess because it's so mysterious what you're going towards, and also the fact that maybe the society around you are not in the same groove as you, that it makes it even more so that you kind of come back to something that's you're doing sort of regularly, or being in Sangha to kind of help support returning to that kind of and returning to your vision as well.
So I've got a bit of a question for you. So I mean, if we talk about kind of the actual situations we find ourselves in, I don't know about you, but a lot of people I know are sort of struggling a bit, and certainly in my team, like my work teams, we're on Zoom a lot, and people are a bit isolated and so on. How would you, or how are you sort of motivating yourself, or how would you kind of encourage people to try to, because it's a bit harder, isn't it, under those circumstances? How do we stay inspired? How do we keep our kind of energy and emotion in service?
Well, for me, I guess I do, well, if I'm because I quite like television. I quite like box sets. But I can, if I'm going to go onto YouTube, then I'm more likely to go for a Dharma talk or yoga or something that it kind of helps me, enriches me, something like that. So even if even if I think, television's bad, but there's things about media that can still be useful to me. So I spend a lot of time listening to talks, just because they interest me. The human trying to change yourself, transformation really interests me as a subject matter. So so I will go towards that, and also do things that involve the body, so yoga a bit more, or when I'm meditating, before I start meditation, do a body awareness so that I come into my body more, so that it's not just a heady thing that I'm trying to practice or explore in terms of spiritual practice.
That's really interesting, because it sounds like what I'm hearing is you're sort of saying, just make kind of good choices, like do what you're already doing, but make a slightly better choice, it's not like trying to kind of shoot for the highest ideal, just sort of do what you're doing,
the next step or something, pick
something that's enriching, or kind of a bit more in line with those ideals. I can see that. That sounds really helpful to me in a way. Good reminder. Just like
and being with people, isn't it? Being in the company of people who want to aspire to something bigger than this, what we're offered. Is really moving and rich. I
mean, I certainly find that I live in a community of 4 other guys, in a way, all Buddhists, and we're not always in good shape individually, but usually somebody's in good spiritual shape in a way, and it does sort of lift the whole community. We have a community morning often on Wednesdays, and usually the person that's most inspired will kind of take the lead on it and be like, let's talk about this, or let's talk about that, and it does somehow just sort of lift us all a little bit.
Friendship, and when things are struggling, that also feels like that can lift you back into your vision, put you back into your vision, and just that sense of solidarity with other people as well. So what's your great divide?
Oh God, you're going to make me admit it on camera. That's fine. No, my big thing is, my big split is always between I always have an escape fantasy. I always want to basically disappear off over the horizon, waving goodbye to all my responsibilities while I go. So it's that tension between duty and service, which is a big part of me, and wanting to leave it all behind.
Yeah.
And I've never really found a good way of balancing that. I've always, up until now, up until lockdown, I've always given each of them space.
Yeah.
You know, I've engaged when I'm present, when I'm here. I've worked hard and served a lot, and got away on retreat, and got away walking or camping or whatever. I'm actually struggling with that much more, because my normal opportunity to go out and go on retreat is sort of not available. Yeah. So no, I don't have an answer to that. And in a certain way, I'm definitely really feeling that escapist bit of me wants to get away. Yeah. And I haven't worked out a constructive way of sort of managing that split in a way. I mean, I was sort of thinking the other day, it's just like, not sure I've got an answer to it, but a bit like you're saying, trying to make more constructive solutions, like just trying to change the context as much as possible. Like I'm not a great fan of routine, so I'm just trying to vary up my routine a bit, and doesn't make it feel as though my weeks aren't just running by and they're the same week over and over. Yeah. So it's just sort of that constructive working in a way. Yeah. But is it interesting? I mean, I don't want to go on too much more, but recently I had a friend sort of suggest to me that some sort of options I could try, and talking about emotion, I had a very strong emotional response to that. It was just a big no. I don't want to do that. Like it's completely rational and sensible, and I know he's being kind, but I don't want to do that. So it's sort of like being honest to that. It's not. I guess I wanted to make the point that this kind of perfect emotion isn't just about being good or being a certain way. It's about being genuine to what's really going on. And for me that would be acknowledging that no, and coming up with a way of, or trying to understand it and trying to work with it. So that would be the kind of thing that's going on for me at the moment.
I guess for me there's also what I'm working with at the moment, I guess the divide between holding grudges. I hold grudges, and then there's the practice of loving kindness and metta, and just sometimes feeling that really painful sense that there's this big gap between the holding of, what I think is kind of righteous anger or I'm in the right, and then how does that work? How do you bring loving kindness to that?
You're sort of working with real emotion, aren't you?
Yeah. But it's also showing me how clearly that this is a place to work on. Work with kind of reactions and stuff. So I'm still in that.
We're all still in something, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, maybe we should start wrapping up. But really lovely to speak to you.
Yes. Yeah, it's been great. Yeah. It's great.